Chapter 2, Man. God made man in his image. Like every other creation, from the infinite intelligence of God, manifested humans from a biological singularity that evolved into sentient conscious beings over time. The cosmic singularity, what we call the Big Bang, manifested the universe as a host for life to begin. The same intelligence, the light of God, manifested life on earth by following the same patterns of manifesting magnificence from a monad. From a singularity to infinite variance, both cosmic and biological, all exist so that man may be born as the highest of them all, endowed with a mental structure more complex than anything else in the universe. The divine pattern of existence not only reflects in the cosmos and biological life, but also reflects in every human mind. The soul that is the divine reflection of God made a body, and there manifested an empty vessel. Our mind. Thoughts that were filled in the vessel manifested our identity. They're born a mental being, the observer of the cosmos, a man of thoughts, born by his father, the soul, and his mother, the body. The divine pattern of creation exists in everything, mental, physical, and social. Everything evolves from a singularity to its identity by nature, including human beings and their minds. Every creation contains a soul that finds its way to transcend into the future, to be reborn again. Human consciousness, a kind of illusion that no other creation possesses, is a mental being living in a biological body, all born from the soul that was manifested by the same divine being who manifested the cosmos. A man is not one entity, but a society of soul, body, and mind. His identity is determined by the thoughts he fills in the vessel of his mind. The only challenge for man in this lifetime is to preserve the vessel without chaos. The nearly infinite thoughts that exist in this world will surely cause chaos in a human mind, and the solution is to empty the vessel by removing all kinds of thoughts he possesses. Like everything manifested from the void, an empty vessel manifests the same divine spirit of God. The mind is a temple. Clear it from all kinds of thoughts every day. Always remember that an empty vessel contains the Spirit of God, while the one lost in his thoughts won't. Many views suggest that the entire cosmos exists for us to experience life, and nothing contradicts that perception, as we are the only sentient and most intelligent creatures alive. The mental structure that shapes us is the most complex engineering marvel that God has ever made. The reality we inhabit, as the most advanced and sentient species known, inevitably leads us to question our true relationship with God. Are humans just a creation, or God himself is reincarnation? Or perhaps, somehow, both? Even if we are divine in essence, there remains no definitive proof to confirm that we are gods. Much like human consciousness itself, the godliness we feel, the spirituality we claim to experience, may ultimately be nothing more than an illusion, like all other things. Human consciousness is an illusion that experiences reality, an illusion crafted by God, the greatest illusionist. To a human, the world feels real and God seems an illusion. But to God, everything he created is an illusion, and he alone is the only true reality. Yet within these illusions, we find meaning, purpose, and joy. Perhaps that is why God made them, to feel, to experience, to be alive, and to witness the invisible illusion of the illusionist himself. The soul grants free will to the self, allowing it to evolve from a singularity into a distinct identity through imagination and conscious participation. This evolution is guided by complex biologically advanced neural receptors that process the full spectrum of emotions and experiences. This is the inner universe, the human effect, the way in which humans are psychologically engineered. The self is manifested into existence through repetitive thoughts registered in the mind. Long before the self, the divine soul and the body journeyed a long way without us, yet for us. The soul, once manifested as life, replicated over millions of species, transcending into the future, giving birth to each one of us. Life may or may not happen naturally when kept with the blessing of sun, water, and necessary vitals. Whether naturally formed or engineered by some superior intelligence, we possess designs that are more complex than our environment, the cosmos itself. Our search for our Creator riddles through space and time into the past and the beginning of all, the Big Bang. From there, we see the illusionist hiding in the void. Same divine patterns that exist in our physical world also reflect inside the mind and in everything else, emphasizing the truth that God created everything the same way as He created humans, physically and mentally. Human beings are a natural creation of God, destined for an unknown yet divine purpose following the sacred evolutionary pattern from a singularity to an identity. The mind is one of the strangest and most complex, yet still a divine construction, and has a natural form that is indeed divine, like any other creation. We ourselves have the duty to help the soul transcend into the future without destroying the Mother Earth in which the soul should live immortality as infinite identities. The soul reflects through the mind, allowing us to shine in nature as divine. It is necessary for the mind to be clear of thoughts in order to reflect the soul perfectly. A mind bounded by thoughts faints the reflection from the soul and reflects the thoughts they possess instead of that from its pure subconscious, what we call the soul. The mind is a tool for us to achieve mastery throughout our journey until we reach our destiny, which indeed is death. Until then, the soul guides us as we allow it, but only if the mind is pure and relaxed. One who accepts the soul will see the divine nature of existence and the divine spirit that is the cause of all what we see and feel. That's the real nature of the divine. Now that you know the nature of the divine, and soon will know how to align with it, learn from it, and live with it. Habits are what shape us. A divine habit aligns us with the nature of the divine. The essence of being human lies in maintaining sacred, attentive relationships throughout the day, rooted in a focused mind shaped by a divine morning. Such a morning flows only from a peaceful, purposeful bedtime. Whenever the mind and body are fully rested, the individual begins to see exactly what must be done to cultivate that still, aware state before sleep. In this way, we not only recall divine truths, but naturally align with it. We move effortlessly and our actions won't stall. When our mind is truly at ease, we rise on our own. Before the sun, this is the true morning, born from a restful and mindful bedtime. Not waking up early, healthy, and happy is only because the mind wasn't prioritized for relaxation during bedtime, and the soul couldn't shine through. If the mind is not aware and properly relaxed, it cannot do the things that make a human being happy and healthy. Thus, one should always remember the sunset and relax as if the sun, who is a god, is himself, allowing us to wind down until we meet again tomorrow. Before sleep, one should avoid all kinds of distractions and should be immersed in mindful activities like reading or meditating, allowing their mind to settle down. When we meditate in the silent outdoors, watching a sunset, we command the request to enter the nature of the divine. By allowing our mind to be light as a feather, our thoughts silent as the void and being in proper relaxation, gazing upon his greatest God, the sun. Go to bed when the sun is down and rise before him, to meet him the next day to be with the first day of a man in the nature of the divine is when he sleeps healthy and happy so that he wakes up all by himself in complete silence, before all other sounds in nature, with a fully relaxed mind. As our mind aligns with the nature of the divine, our soul will shine through and our mind will be at its best. In that complete silence of nothing, we should delve deeper into even more nothingness by relaxing our mind with meditation. In each breath, removing all kinds of thoughts layer by layer, focusing our inner peace, submitting ourselves to our soul. By doing this, we will delve deeper and deeper into our subconscious. As the vessel that is our mind is still and empty, God will shine his divine spirit in us, through us. As we contain the divine spirit in us, we reflect divinity in everything we speak, thinks, and does. Above all that, we recognize the divine nature of existence, the reality that exists in front of his eyes but couldn't be seen as we were blinded by our own thoughts. Pure meditation is about bringing our mind into focus and keeping our concentration as sharp as possible while balancing our breath. A distracted mind fears away from meditation, while a mind that is relaxed will easily do so. Once we reach a relaxed state of mind, we connect with their soul. In that state, each breath is an opportunity to grant a wish for how we want to be in the future. Without losing focus and attention on our breath, What we wish for will surely be granted by our soul, manifesting into our future. The above mentioned is the right way to pray, the way of allowing our soul to prosper our lives. We will be raised from being governed by our thoughts and actions to the ones who conquer them. After the prayer, one should slowly come back to self-awareness and consciously present himself before the sun. As the sun rises and begins to shine, so too does our soul. From that moment forward, every action will be guided by our soul, for that we have aligned ourselves with the nature of the divine. Always remember that a relaxed mind stays with the nature of the divine than a mind tired of thinking. Start your days in the nature of the divine. Nature blesses those who dwell within it. A mind aligned with the divine receives every blessing with ease. Learning becomes effortless, action flows smoothly, and the mind remains clear, focused, and strong. Such a person carries the healthiest mindset, rooted in truth, fueled by the same divinity of God. We will live in the presence of the divine, where reality reveals itself in its purest form, and the Spirit of God stands before our very eyes, even though it is invisible. One can truly know when they are living in the nature of the divine, as it is unmistakable. But remember, to remain in this sacred state, one must return to the sun at the end of each day. Only by honoring this closing ritual can the cycle repeat the next morning. To witness the rising and setting sun in stillness, free from thought, is a sacred ritual that aligns the soul with the divine. The more one lives in harmony with the nature of the divine, the deeper the connection becomes. When a man is truly within it, there is no need to force a healthy dinner or a restful sleep. His body and mind will naturally move toward what is right and good, driven by the intelligence of the subconscious. The soul takes over, and everything flows without resistance. The duty for us is only to clear our mind from thoughts and stay as much as relaxed as possible throughout the entire day. For a mind in the nature of the divine, each day becomes better than yesterday. Every day he will be more relaxed than the last. The night brings deeper sleep than the one before. The morning shines brighter, calmer, and divine than before. Meditations become more focused and powerful. The days and moments with family and friends will become richer in love. Even loneliest moments become more joyful and fulfilling. Everything he does, no matter how small, will be done with greater precision and peace. Every beginning and ending of everything we do will have great presence and perfection. Every day for such a man is a day with the nature of the divine. Every day the desire to be with the nature of the divine is manifested much easier than yesterday if the mind is relaxed enough. One feels the power inside them growing exponentially, fueled by God himself, through the soul, through the sun, through himself and everything else. A bond with the nature of the divine that never breaks, unless one fails to wind down properly, missing to accomplish the habits that affect the complete cycle. Live every day to achieve this habit, to stay aligned with the day. The desire to be with the nature of the divine is manifested much easier than yesterday if the mind is relaxed enough. One feels the power inside them growing exponentially, fueled by God himself, through the soul, through the sun, through himself, and everything else. A bond with the nature of the divine that never breaks unless one fails to wind down properly, missing to accomplish the habits that affect the complete cycle. Live every day to achieve this habit, to stay aligned with the nature of the divine. A mind aligned with the nature of the divine becomes divine. By opening our eyes and ears closer to nature than anything else, we perfectly align and subconsciously control the mind purely. Throughout every morning, one will evolve and grow stronger than the day before, responding more positively to divine habits. It is easier to flow with the nature of the divine than to take a chance going out. One who has visited it will surely return back to the divine nature and will grow stronger. While in this nature, one not only improves brain performance, but also learns to understand the language of the universe and all that it contains. The will to keep going forward with habits that align one with the nature of the divine is much simpler and more beneficial than losing his daily routine. One must sacrifice anything else for the proper routines that are aligned with the rhythm of the sun and the nature of the divine. One who cannot accomplish his habits should always remember to relax more and should enjoy his relaxing bedtime with much more greatness. The more one tries, the more they master it. The more one wants it, the more they get it. The more one relaxes, the more they do it with the help of the soul. And the more one is focused, the more they learn from the nature of the divine. And the more one learns from it, the more they align with it as a blessing of God. That is the simple formula for aligning with the nature of the divine. Always condition the mind to relax. When in the nature of the divine, the human brain develops larger attention and focus that are exponentially powerful, all fueled by the soul's shining and not by the labor of a thinking mind. For things the soul doesn't know about are just needed to be practiced every day, and do not hold the potential of your soul by worry. In silence, the soul shines bright. With habits, the mind takes flight. Together they shine as divine. We, the self, exist as an observer, reflecting the divine harmony of God, as a friend to our soul, born by the perception of reality in the form of thoughts. Quite naturally, it is for the mind to be filled with dust of thoughts that affect the clarity in how we perceive and interact with the outside world. In order to align our mind with the nature of the divine, we must keep the mind still and away from mindless distractions. This allows the self to reflect the divine nature of our mind to the outside world in its purest form. In other words, we are accepting God. Indeed, God protects man from unwanted thoughts and emotions. What prevents us from aligning with the nature of the divine is indeed our thoughts that fill our mind and other distractions that disturb us, blinding the light of God, which is reflected through our soul. So always keep it empty and clean, ready for anything to be done with all dedication and focus. Purify your mind every day from the thoughts that enslave you and practice accepting the silence to align with the nature of the divine. Man by birth exists in its purest form, entirely guided by the soul. We, the self, never really existed during that time. There were no thoughts to determine our identity. We, the self, only existed by the repetitive feeding of thoughts in our mind that shaped us into our identity. We, the self, are an observer, a man of thoughts, with the intervention of repetitive thoughts that are seeded and nurtured in the mind by ourselves and every other external condition, including our nature, family, and society. Our constant reflection of our thoughts shapes us. A mind that possesses no thoughts becomes relaxed and thus removes the dust of thoughts and worries from the mind, helping the soul to reflect through the mind in its purest form. One should allow God in His way on how to live rather than being governed by thoughts that enslave us and blind our minds from our souls. Man of his thought is weaker as we are chained by our thoughts that prevent us from reflecting our mind in its purest form. Random thoughts that hold the attention surely reduce the sharpness and performance of one's mind, and therefore should be removed in order to align the mind with the nature. Everything in the cosmos evolves till it reaches its destiny. Every soul, body, and mind evolves for their destiny. For that, God made everything with a purpose. We all evolve for our purpose to be fulfilled. The soul has a purpose of being born again in another body, for another mind, and for another self. By relaxing ourselves, we avoid all distractions, including the thoughts that are in our minds. Only then will the soul and mind be freed to evolve and shine. The soul and body exist only to fulfill our deepest wishes, for their purpose is to transcend, birthing a new self through the soul, even as we live within the dream we shape. Thus, the soul grants every wish, every thought held in the mind, because to the soul, we are its dearest companion, its closest friend. Whether good or bad one demands himself to be, will be granted by his soul. The only way for us to survive in a world of good and bad, where every decision we make has benefits and detriments, is by relaxing ourselves until we enter the void, where no thoughts possess the mind and no actions determine our future, where we dissolve with our soul rather than worshiping our thoughts that can betray and uphold us at the same time. When the mind worships no thoughts, then we are said to be free from the chain of thoughts and emotions, completely allowing our soul to protect and guide us, where begins the path to prosperity, which in turn manifests heaven as the reward of joining with the journey of our soul in the nature of the divine. The divine potential of the mind will be unlocked for one who ceases his thoughts to exist in his mind. The habit of removing all kinds of thoughts from the mind and focusing on our breath will in turn eliminate unwanted emotions and desires throughout the entire day, as that is the divine nature of a human life. Every cycle of breath should bring one more and more relaxed. In order to align the mind with the nature of the divine, one must prepare their mind to be ready and clean every day by meditation. This allows our mind to be empty of thoughts and desires, allowing us to focus completely on everything we do presently. In other words, we should daily clean the window of our mind so that the light of our soul reaches our eyes through that window. Clearly, the reflection of our soul through our mind is divine and is of God. Whether just a creation or the reincarnation of the Creator as the creation, our soul shines the divine light of God that has been shining from the very beginning of existence forever and ever. From a silenced and meditated mind, man observes the harmony of divinity and finds his real purpose as his mind is clear, which is to be a friend for his soul who is on a great and much divine journey. In a meditative state, God responds to all our questions through our soul. A man who fails to meditate gets distracted by his thoughts and fails to recognize the divine wisdom that is delivered from God through his soul. The nature of the mind is with the presence of God and definitely not in the absence. God responds to our prayers in the form of thoughts and actions through our soul into our lives. One should always remember to settle down the dust in their minds, remembering the fact that a relaxed mind in a void outperforms a mind tired of thinking. Allowing the mind to be absent from thoughts manifests the ability to see the divinity in existence. Observing the empty mind in an empty environment conditions us to exist in our natural form, which is divine, allowing us to find answers to the unexplainable divine nature of existence and everything in it. Therefore, keeping the mind in its purest form, away from thoughts, is necessarily the first step to heaven, a state of existence where everything we desire will surely be brought to us effortlessly and not with the hard work of a self, but with proper meditation of our mind. This will clear the mind away from the dust of thoughts and help us connect with our soul clearly, aligning our mind with the nature of the divine. A mind in its purest form allows the self to be in control easily, whereas a distracted mind gets controlled by external circumstances and the thoughts that are filled in our mind, as the mind is too busy with the random thoughts that pop in our head, which in turn blur the divine thoughts delivered from the soul through the mind. Through continuous practice of meditation and mindfulness, the self learns and evolves at its best. One who keeps their mind calm and quiet opens a connection with the soul. One who listens to their soul will listen to God. One who listens to God learns from God. One who learns from God joins with God. One who joins with God will become divine. One who is divine attains a higher level of consciousness and awareness, thus becomes a master of their own mind. In the mind possesses and processes everything that's necessary for the self to exist and evolve till death. The soul that is more powerful than the self, that existed long before the mind and body, has all the answers to the questions one seeks. The soul is the same from the beginning and contains all the information we need to know. All questions will be answered by the soul through our mind, only if the mind is still impure. It is necessary for one to learn and evolve from the soul through a clear mind. The same soul that gave birth to the body from a singularity, the same soul that controls all vitals including heartbeat, growth, and everything else, sure has answers to all the questions the self seeks. Therefore, one possesses all the strength he needs unless he chooses to ignore or disbelieve. The same God who manifested the cosmos from a singularity to an infinite number of identities did reincarnated as every creation, including the biological life, the divine soul, the mind, the body, and the self. The essence of everything is intelligence, the divine pattern of creation from a singularity into identity in all dimensions, including physical, mental, and social, indeed proves the presence of the Creator and His divine wisdom. A pure mind raises one to higher levels of intelligence, allowing them to shine brighter and conquer their desires. It is necessary for man to keep their mind, body, and soul in their purest form by meditation and other practices that they can learn by himself through their soul. This helps in removing the dust that blinds the connection with the soul. A still and aware mind will always align with the nature of the divine, mentally and socially. By nature, an intellectual mind will be raised to higher dimensions when the mind is properly preserved, whereas a stressed mind that is bound by unnecessary thoughts fails to shine the light of God. The mind in its purest form aligns with the nature of the divine, allowing one to experience life from the center, which is indeed what God has intended man to. One who taps into the divine music of God with the help of a healthy and clear mind with proper focus and awareness will be raised godly, which is necessarily the key to the doors of heaven and infinite wisdom. Disconnecting from distractions and staying aware of the universe inside ceases the disruption of evolution in one's mind. When treated with proper sleep and meditation, the mind evolves as it is not disturbed. Everything in the cosmos evolves into a destined state. So does the soul, the mind, and the self. Being distracted by what's outside will disrupt the evolution of one's mind and slow down the evolution until one chooses to disconnect from those distractions and rediscover the way of God. The more one finds their way back to God from the distractions that cover their reality, the faster they will be the next time in eliminating those distractions and getting back to the center. One who is at the center is strong enough to recognize and avoid the distractions that banish him from joy and prosperity. One will be able to understand the unexplainable infinite wisdom that shines through them and everything around when their mind is submitted to God. One must remember that the purpose of man is not to be distracted by entertainment, thoughts, and emotions. The purpose is greater than what we can comprehend. Therefore, we should observe what God commands us through our soul and should take necessary actions, holding our mind in its meditated state. For God has created every soul for a unique purpose and every self as a companion to guide our soul. We must just allow it to be, as it is the glorious purpose. One who doesn't believe in his glorious and yet unique purpose must take a look at everything else in this vast cosmos, including his own unique and complex fingerprints fabricated by the Creator, which indeed is a sign for man to wake up, to remember his identity, to remember his soul, to remember his purpose, and mostly to remember God. Meditation is an act that opens the doorways for observing the nature of our mind, resulting in an awakened and focused mind that helps us in mastering greatness as our mind is aligned with the nature of the divine. We must let go of our illusionary control over our lives and should let God control us like everything else in this vast cosmos. For that, we must maintain a state of peace in our mind, allowing God to manifest what's natural through our soul. God is the guide for mastering higher positions within our own mind, family, and society. This can be achieved by listening to the soul and learning what the soul teaches you. The soul is the closest to God and is the greatest teacher to ourselves. Clean the mind to know the soul and align with the nature